My coworker stole my report. He got promoted. I got erased. Hey everyone, my name's Adam. I was let go on a Tuesday morning with a 3-sentence email. No warning. No meeting. Just a cold message from HR that said, "Your position has been terminated effective immediately. Please return company property by the end of the week. Thank you for your contributions." I read it 3 times thinking it was spam. Like maybe someone was screwing with me. But the sender was real. And so was the lockout on my work account that happened 10 minutes later. Just like that, I was erased. I'd been working at that company for almost 5 years. It wasn't glamorous, just a mid-sized logistics firm in Cincinnati, but I was proud of what I did. I managed routing systems, figured out how to shave time off deliveries, reduce idle hours, cut costs. I like solving puzzles. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't loud. But I got things done. My boss, Glenn, used to say I was dependable as hell. Until I wasn't, apparently. The thing is, the week before I was fired, something happened. Something small, I thought. Now I know better. There was this new guy, Toby. Fresh MBA, talked too much, asked too little. Glenn brought him in to modernize operations, which apparently meant meetings about meetings and buzzwords instead of workflows. I didn't like him, but I played nice. Until one afternoon he presented an optimization report that basically copied a proposal I'd submitted 2 months earlier. Word for word, even the diagrams. I confronted him in the break room. Quietly. I said, "Hey man, that report you sent out, it was mine." He smirked. Actually smirked. "You didn't patent it, did you?" I blinked. Thought he was joking. "I sent that to Glenn in January." He shrugged. "Maybe we both had the same idea." I should have gone straight to Glenn. But I didn't. I didn't want to look like I was making waves. I figured it'd blow over. That was a mistake. 3 days later, Glenn stopped replying to my emails. I was pulled off a project without explanation. A report I submitted came back with incomplete written across it, even though I double-checked every figure. Then Tuesday. The email. The lockout. The nothing. I didn't even get a chance to pack my desk. A coworker texted me, "Are you okay? They just had Toby clear your stuff." That's when it hit me. I'd been replaced. Quietly, efficiently, like a part swapped out of a machine. And the worst part? No one called. No exit interview. No. "Thanks for your time." Just radio silence. Like I never existed. I sat in my kitchen for hours that day, still in my button-up, phone face down, wondering what the hell had just happened. I kept thinking, there's gotta be a mistake. Maybe IT glitched. Maybe Glenn would call. But the phone stayed dead. And I stayed unemployed. The days after felt like some kind of limbo. I didn't tell anyone right away, not my parents, not my friends, not even my landlord. I just kind of floated. I kept waking up at the same time, like muscle memory, showering, putting on work clothes, only to remember I had nowhere to be. I'd sit at the kitchen table and stare at my laptop, refreshing my inbox like Glenn would suddenly email me and say, "Oops, our bad." But nothing came. The silence felt louder than anything. On Thursday, I finally called HR. Got some woman named Claire I'd never met. I asked why I was terminated. She said something about internal restructuring and performance concerns, but couldn't give me specifics. I said, "What performance concerns?" She paused. Then said, "I'm not authorized to discuss individual evaluations." I almost laughed. "So I just vanish and no one even tells me why?" She apologized. Told me someone would follow up. No one did. I called Glenn. Voicemail. Left a message. Nothing. I emailed Toby. He replied within 5 minutes. "Sorry to hear about your departure. Best of luck going forward." That was it. Like I'd been voted off the island and everyone was too polite to admit they'd cast their ballots. It wasn't even about the job anymore. It was the principle. The erasure. The fact that someone else could steal your work, weaponize your silence, and come out looking like a star. And the people who were supposed to have your back, they just nod and let it happen. I started writing a document. Everything I'd worked on. Every email I'd sent. Every version of that optimization report, complete with dates and timestamps. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it, but it felt like proof. Like a way to remind myself I wasn't crazy. I posted on a private Slack channel we'd used during remote work, a dead thread I thought. Just said, "For anyone who still gives a damn, I didn't quit. I was pushed." Attached the doc. Closed my laptop. I didn't expect anything. But that night, something wild happened. I got a text from Jasmine, someone in accounting. "Hey. Just saw your post. That's messed up." Then another, from a guy in dispatch. "Toby's been bragging about that report." I knew it wasn't his. Then more. One after another. Apparently people had questions. And it was only a matter of time before someone asked Glenn directly. I didn't have a plan. Didn't want revenge. I just wanted to be seen. The following week was weird. Kind of electric. Like I'd kicked a hornet's nest and didn't know whether I was about to get stung or saved. People started messaging me more, some from burner emails, others from personal accounts. Turns out, I wasn't the first one Toby had stepped on. Just the first one dumb enough to go quietly. One guy from Ike told me Toby once deleted someone's access in the middle of a rollout just to make them miss a deadline. Another said Glenn had been checked out for months, showing up late, dodging responsibility, letting Toby run the show. Someone even forwarded me a Slack screenshot where Toby joked, "One down, 5 to go." About me. I read that one over and over. My hands were shaking. That's when I realized this wasn't personal. At least not in the way I thought. I wasn't some uniquely unworthy target. I was just the first loose nail in a clean PR floor. They were planning a reorg, or a buyout, or something, and I was just in the way. That should have made it easier. It didn't. It still felt like betrayal. Like I'd spent years building something, only to be treated like a glitch to delete. Jasmine reached out again. Asked if I'd be willing to talk to a journalist she knew, someone covering corporate layoffs and quiet removals. I said no at first. I didn't want to go public. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt like keeping quiet was just helping them. So I agreed. I didn't say anything dramatic. Just told the story. My story. About the email. The silence. The report. The way it felt to be erased without a word. The piece ran online a week later, buried between headlines about tech layoffs and rising rent. But people saw it. Enough to matter. Someone posted it on LinkedIn. It made the rounds. Then a recruiter messaged me. "I read your story. We're hiring someone with your exact background. Want to talk?" It wasn't a dream job. But it was honest. And it felt like a hand reaching down while I was still on the ground. I said yes. Interviewed. Got it. Started the following Monday. And on my first day, guess what I saw in the office kitchen? A laminated sign above the coffee machine. "Please credit the source of all internal documents." I laughed. Out loud. First time in weeks. It's been 6 months since that email. Feels like longer. Feels like I lived an entire other life between then and now. The new job's good. The team's small but tight. My manager actually listens when I talk. When I suggested a process tweak last week, she pulled me into her office and said, "That's smart. Run with it." I almost didn't know how to respond. Compliments still make me flinch. Like I'm waiting for the catch. But it's getting better. I stopped checking the old company's website. Stopped watching for Glenn's name in industry articles. Stopped waiting for an apology that was never coming. Toby got promoted, I heard. VP of Operations. Guess stepping on people works if you wear the right shoes. But I'm done measuring my life against theirs. That's the real shift. For a while, everything was about proving them wrong. Like if I just landed a better title, better salary, better LinkedIn banner, it would erase what happened. But it doesn't work like that. Nothing undoes it. You just carry it different. I still think about that day sometimes, about sitting at my kitchen table, hands shaking, staring at a screen that told me I was no longer wanted. But now, when I think about it, I don't feel small. I feel sharp. Clear. Like that moment cut away the noise and showed me exactly what I was dealing with. I never wanted to be a whistleblower. Never wanted to burn bridges. But sometimes the bridge is already on fire, and you're just the first one to smell the smoke. A few weeks ago, Jasmine emailed me again. She'd left too. Said she couldn't stay after what happened, after what she saw. She's freelancing now. Says it's messy but honest. We got coffee last weekend. Laughed about Glenn's weird sayings, about the ancient copier that always jammed, about how long it took us to realize things weren't okay. We talked like survivors. And when I got home that night, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't grieving. I was just living. Still here. Still showing up. Still worth more than someone else's version of the truth. Apparently, not a culture fit means you told the truth once too often. Hey everyone, my name's Eli. They didn't fire me for being bad at my job. They fired me because I wouldn't shut up. That's the part no one says out loud. No write-ups, no missed deadlines, no HR warnings. Just a slow, methodical freezing out until one day you walk into a room and everyone acts like you've already been erased. I worked at a marketing firm in Atlanta. One of those loud, open-concept places where everyone wears sneakers with blazers and calls the interns rock stars. I handled mid-tier client accounts, nothing flashy, but I kept things running. Timelines, deliverables, scopes. I was the guy who made sure people didn't forget the client's actual needs under all the performative creativity. I used to care. A lot. Then, 3 months before they let me go, I noticed something off. Budget reports weren't lining up. One account in particular, Zelva, a health tech client, had numbers that kept shifting. Not huge, not flashy, but just enough to raise a red flag if you were looking closely. And I was. I brought it up to my manager, Rachel. Hey, just noticed some discrepancies on the Q2 burn for Zelva. Looks like we logged overages we never reported to the client. She gave me that tight, polite smile people use when you say something inconvenient in a meeting. We'll look into it. That was it. 2 days later, my access to the financial dashboard was restricted pending audit. I asked around. No one else had issues. I followed up. Got ghosted. A week later, I was pulled from the Zelva account entirely. Reassigned to internal operations optimization, which basically meant making decks no one read. They didn't demote me. They didn't dock my pay. They just made me irrelevant. I kept my head down for a while. Told myself maybe I misread things. Maybe it was normal reshuffling. But then one of the junior analysts, Sam, came to me looking pale. Did you log the Q3 media buys for Zelva? I shook my head. Haven't touched their stuff in weeks. He nodded, slowly. Okay. Just wondered. They're saying we over-delivered by like $40,000 and didn't bill them. That's when it clicked. Someone was cooking the books. Maybe not for theft, maybe just to hide incompetence. But it was happening. And I had a choice, pretend I didn't know, or say something. I chose to say something. Because that's who I am. Or maybe was. I sent Rachel a polite, careful email outlining my concerns. Didn't accuse anyone. Didn't name names. Just flagged the patterns. Her reply? Thanks, we'll review internally. I never heard about it again. But a week later, I was invited to a performance calibration meeting. And something in my gut told me, this was the beginning of the end. The performance meeting was a joke. They called it a touch point, to align expectations. It was me, Rachel, and some guy from HR I'd never seen before who kept referring to himself as a people success partner, which should have been my first clue. Rachel started with the usual corporate foreplay. We really appreciate your contributions, you've been a steady hand on key accounts. Then pivoted hard. That said, there have been concerns about your fit with the evolving culture here. I blinked. My fit? We've gotten feedback that you tend to focus too heavily on process, and that sometimes comes across as rigid or negative. I swear I almost laughed. I said, Is this about me flagging the Zelva stuff? HR guy jumped in. We're not here to litigate any one event. Of course not. That would mean acknowledging one happened. Rachel continued. We're looking for team members who lean into solutions and support the broader creative mission. You mean people who stay quiet? I asked. That was the end of the conversation. I was told we'd mutually explore transition options, which is Silicon Valley speak for start packing. 2 weeks later, I was out. No public announcement. No goodbye email. Just a Monday morning where my keycard beeped red, and someone I trained was sitting at my old desk. I didn't even get my plans. I could have made a scene. I could have posted screenshots, burned bridges, gone scorched earth. But I didn't. Because part of me still wanted to believe in the version of me they kept pretending I was, someone who did things the right way. Someone who didn't stoop. But man, it's hard not to be bitter when you're unemployed with a spotless record and a savings account hemorrhaging rent. I spent a month doom-scrolling job boards, rewriting the same bullet points on my resume, sending emails into the void. Every time I wrote, left due to cultural misalignment, I felt like I was lying. But what was I supposed to say? Fired for telling the truth. Nobody hires that guy. Not on paper. Not unless they've been that guy too. One night, maybe a month into unemployment, I went to a bar down the block just to feel something. Ordered a beer I couldn't afford, sat in the corner, tried not to look like someone who lost his job for being too upright. A guy at the bar recognized me, David, from an old client account. We'd worked together on a few campaigns back when things were still good. He slid over, drink in hand. Man, you ghosted, he said. I smiled tight. Got laid off. Culture fit or whatever. He frowned. You. Come on. You were the only one who kept those timelines from going to hell. I shrugged. Didn't play the game right, I guess. We talked for a while. He asked what I was doing now. I told him the truth, nothing yet. A few freelance gigs here and there. Living off leftovers and pride. Before he left, he handed me a napkin with a name on it. My cousin runs a nonprofit. Real small team, real shoestring budget. They're looking for someone who can bring structure to chaos. You might actually like it. I didn't expect anything. But I emailed. Got a reply the next day. Interviewed that Friday. It was scrappy, a mess of mismatched calendars and overworked people. But it was honest. The director, Elena, asked me one question that stuck. Can you keep us organized without losing your soul in the process? I said, I'd love the chance to try. I started the following Monday. No onboarding packet. No people success partner. Just a login, a list of overdue grants, and a sense of being needed. First few weeks were rough. Everything was a disaster, files missing, budgets out of date, no one tracking deadlines. But there was no pretending. No egos. Just people trying to do something that mattered. I started sleeping better. I stopped checking my email obsessively, waiting for Rachel or Glenn or anyone from the old job to suddenly regret losing me. I stopped needing that. I was building something again, even if it was small. Even if no one on LinkedIn was liking it. The best part? No one cared that I'd been fired. They just cared that I showed up, gave a damn, and told the truth. Turns out, there are places where that's still enough. 6 months later, I barely recognized the version of me that sat in that HR meeting, trying not to sound defensive while they dressed cowardice up as culture. I still think about it sometimes, usually when I'm in the middle of fixing some convoluted grant budget, or helping Elena prep for a funding pitch, and I catch myself smiling. Like, actually smiling. Like I give a shit again. We're not perfect here. God, we're not even close. But we don't pretend. When something goes wrong, we talk about it. When I mess up, no one writes me up, they just ask, what do you need to get it right? I never knew how much I needed that kind of grace. We had a retreat a few weeks back, just a rented house in the mountains, a bunch of whiteboards, and too much boxed wine. First night, we did a check-in. Everyone shared where they were emotionally, no masks. When it was my turn, I froze for a second. Then I said, I'm still unlearning the idea that being good at something means being silent. The room got quiet. Then Elena said, "Well, we're glad you unlearned it here." That landed hard. I walked out onto the porch later that night, stared at the trees, the quiet, the sky that didn't feel like it was pressing down for once. I don't make as much as I did at the agency. My title's not fancy. I don't wear sneakers that cost more than my groceries. But every time I log in, I know I matter. That what I do matters. That I'm not disposable. Sometimes I still catch myself drafting fake responses to Rachel in my head, perfect comebacks I never sent. But then I remember, she doesn't get to live in my head rent-free anymore. I do. I live here now. And finally, it feels like home. Subscribe, hit the like button, and explore more fascinating stories.